So here's a little demo for activity 1 for week 3. We're going to create and set up the layouts, which is essentially the piece of paper that we want to print our work on. We're going to set it up so that we can start doing our output. So let's take a look and see what the steps are. First, it says to open the file. So let me go open a file, and I'll just pick the very first one that I did. Open, and you'll see it shows up like that. And I can ignore my unresolved references. As a matter of fact, it's the image that I used to have. So I'll just get rid of it. Delete. And so there is my drawing, and it's in what's called model space. That's where I did all of my drawing work. And now I'm going to go down to the lower left and pick this layout 1 tab. Open file, select the layout 1, and look, that shows up on my piece of paper. So what I drew in the model shows up on my piece of paper, and I can tell I'm looking at a piece of paper because it says paper over here. So now it says to set it up so that I'll plot as a PDF. You can plot as any number of things. I can plot it on a physical piece of paper. I can plot it as PDF. I can plot it as a PNG, EWF. I mean, there's tons of ways. Depends on what device somebody wants to look at it with. And so I'm going to set it up to be a PDF. So go to this little layout tab down here and right click on it, and you'll see that there's a page setup manager. And there's other ways to get to this, but this is the one that I usually teach with because everybody can get to it easily. It says, okay, I'm working on layout number 1. What do you want to do to it? I want to modify it. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to pick my plotter. It says there's a whole bunch of them already established on my computer, but if you've got AutoCAD at all, you'll see that there is an AutoCAD PDF generator, and that's what I'm going to pick. And I'll just pick general. I don't need fancy or web or mobile. I'll just do general. And it automatically comes up with ANSI, that's a standard. Full bleed A size, that's another standard. And 8.5 by 11. So this is a standard that I just choose I want to do. I want to print the whole layout. Now up here, there's old thing, plot style table pen assignments. Well, we don't use pen plotters anymore, but we still use that name for how do we associate keys to colors and things like that. And ACAD.CTB is a very, very common standard. Here we are, we're into these industrial standards already. So I'm going to pick that one. Now, often you'll pick grayscale or monochrome because certain industries don't want to see any color. In this case, I've drawn in black and white, but ACAD CTB is very common. So we'll pick that. We'll pick our quality as normal. That's okay for what we're doing now. And then all these plot options should be set up, but we definitely want to plot object line weights. This is landscape. Okay, and so we don't really need to look at anything else. And we're going to plot the piece of paper as the size of the piece of paper. So 1 inch on the paper will be 1 inch of scale plot. Okay, and we'll click this scale line weights, and we'll click OK. There we go. So that's set up. So that's activity 1.1. Then in activity 1.2, this is called a viewport. It's already on there, and if I click on it and right click on it or hover, it says it's a viewport. And that's just a window on my piece of paper that shows my model. And we'll get into this a lot more later on. You can have many viewports on one sheet, But I'm going to resize this so that it covers most of my piece of paper. Right like that. I'm just clicking on those little grips, left clicking, let it go, move it, and click it when I have it where I want it. And so that's my window on the model. Now, if you have a complex model with 40 or 50 different things in it, you can pick just the part that you want to view. That's why it's called a viewport. For us, we don't really care because we just have a simple thing right now. Okay, so then it says do a print preview check to see if it all kind of looks right. There's lots of ways to do that. The way I usually do it is I go up to this little plot button, or I hit the A and I go to the print plot. Either way, there's all sorts of things you can do with this, but you can print, or you can just type plot. And yes, I want to do just a single sheet. It's asking me if I want to do them all. I want to do just a single sheet. All this comes up and I can click the preview button. And it looks pretty much like it. I see my little frame, my viewport, and I see that this is on there. So I feel like I'm set up. So then I can just click this, close the preview window, and cancel. That was my activity 1.2. And now I'll do activity 1.3, which is set the viewport scale, because I don't really know how big this is. Okay. I'd like to be able to measure on my piece of paper later on. So to do that, I need to get off of my piece of paper and say I want to look at my model correctly. Now you'll see it says I'm looking at my model through my viewport. And I'm looking at it at a weird scale. So I want to click that little triangle and pick 1 to 1. Now it's not in the right place, so I'm going to hold my scroll button down and make it show up on my paper. And then I need to lock this so I don't accidentally mess it up later on. There's the lock button in the right. And then I'm going to go back and make sure that I'm touching my paper. I'm looking at it like a piece. So that's your activity 1, and you'll do that for a number of these. All of them, actually. Okay, I'll give you a video for a couple of them so that you get the hang of it. Okay, and then we'll go on to activity 2.